Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. So a lot of us want to maximize the growing space that we've got, and one of the best ways of maximizing growing space is using the whole length of the garden as well as the height of the garden. And in this video what I'm going to be focusing on is building structures of the garden so we can maximize our growing potential growing upwards. And before I get into the project that we're getting on today, let me show you a couple of other arches that I've already got. You'll have seen this one. This is the famous arch that you've seen me coming down so many times in our garden videos. And what I've got on this side is I've got a grapevine. So I've got an outdoor grapevine recently, and I'm going to train this grapevine going up this side of the arch and eventually covering the whole thing. But what I do on this side as well, and you've seen me do this every year, in this big bucket here I grow bottle gourd, and I only planted this out about a week ago, and it's already putting on its length. It's sending out its shoots, and it's really coming on. This bottle gourd's going to climb up this arch, and I'll have bottle gourds hanging down from here. So when I come walking down, you'll see me hanging off, these bottle gourds from here, and I can't wait for the bottle gourd season to start, and we'll be having loads and loads of things over here. You saw me do a video about the really poor quality garden arches that are available in a lot of garden centres. Wilko sell them, Lidl sell them. They're really poor quality. Don't buy them. I did a specific video on how pathetic they are. Really poor quality. Don't buy them. I built that probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and that's just cheap, rough sawn timber. It's stuff made for internal stud walls. It's held up quite well. I think it'll give me another 10 years before it rots. And all wood eventually rots. Treated timber takes a little bit longer. The rough sawn, untreated stuff, yeah, it'll rot a little bit faster. But this is one that I built a few days ago. It's not been long at all. Last winter I did some work with a community organisation, and I got a load of willow branches, and here what I've done is I've built this arch. I'm absolutely loving this. We've got some lights on it now, and it looks really pretty at night time. These crossbars, they're from poplar. Picked up a load of poplar branches from a neighbour, so I've screwed those poplar branches on, and it's given me a nice bit of dimension to this garden now. It looks really cool. But whenever you build something like this, don't forget your lateral support. Come here. Because these arches tend to blow over really easy. So don't forget your lateral support, and that's what these corner braces here are really useful for. So they come in really handy and stop it from wobbling too much. Those lateral supports just give it that little bit of strength, so it stops it from wobbling as much. It's only been about a week or so since I built this, so once the soil settles in around it, it'll look, it'll be really solid and it won't move anywhere. Let me just show you a couple of things that I've got planted at the base of it. So on this side of the arch, I've got a couple of wax gourds planted at the bottom, and wax gourds really struggle in this country because it's just not warm enough, but hopefully with the recent heat wave that we've had, we'll see how these get on. But bottle gourds have been doing really good for us, and here's a bottle gourd that I planted just over a week ago, and as soon as it's hit that soil, it's sending out its runners. So I just need to find something to give it a little bit of support so I can get it to touch this first branch. As soon as I can get it to touch this first branch, it'll be off, it'll climb up here, and it'll be shooting up here in no time at all. So rather than talk about it, let's just get it done. We don't need anything massive. Just a couple of sticks are going to be good enough just to get it up, because you want it climbing up. You don't want it flopping on the floor. There we go. Once those tendrils set in, once those tendrils realise that it's got something to grab on, it's just going to climb up without any issues. There we go, that's it. Stay there. Stay. That'll be fine. In about a week's time, you'll see that up to about this post, and by the time it gets to the end of June, beginning of July, it'll be over the top here. I should have put some cross braces across the top so it's got a little bit of something to hang off I'll figure that out afterwards. Everyone knows about giving peas and runner beans a support, so I won't go into pea supports, but let me show you this frame that I built for the runner beans. Last year I built this frame for the runner beans, really happy with the way it was going, really proud of the way it looked actually. And then we had that really wicked storm and it just knocked it on its, you know, it just knocked it in half. Here's the rest of it. So what I'm going to do, the thing is the lateral supports didn't make a difference on this one because it snapped the wood right in the middle. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to give it a bit more solid. I'm going to give it a solid wood across the top and just make sure that it's properly solid and dug in properly and get that in. Yeah, it'll be on my list of jobs for tomorrow. It won't be today because I've just got too much to do. I'll show you the stuff that I'm on with today. I'm loving my wonky arches at the minute. So here's another one. Look, as I'm walking past, these are volunteer potatoes. I'll dig them up today and we'll have some roast potatoes tonight. But here's another wonky arch that I've built. And this, again, is from poplar logs and willow branches and poplar branches. They came out really nice. And already my cucumbers are climbing up. My hyacinth beans are on their way. So I'm quite happy, it's looking good. It'll be covered in a sea of green in no time at all. But today's project, the main project that I'm on with today, so just here is our main footpath for most of the garden. To get to the top and bottom of the garden, this is a footpath. It's a wasted space underneath. I used to have grass down, but I've turned it to wood chip very recently to stop it from being as slippy. And I grow beans just on this section here, and again I used to have an arch here, but that's, you know, it's lost it, it's collapsed. I stopped growing beans here for a couple of years, but I'm starting to grow beans here again. And my main bottle gourd arch that's just there, that's on its last legs. It's very rotten, it's about to collapse. I've somehow propped it up just so I can get another season out of it. We had a couple of really long bottle gourds that were desperately needed to be planted, so I had to salvage that one. I used to have an arch here where I'd climb bottle gourds over the top and I'd grow potatoes underneath. So you're doubling up on the space. Now we always did well with growing the potatoes, but it was a very low arch. If you go back a couple of years, you'll see me and Dean crouched under here for picking a couple of bottle gourds and cooking them afterwards. So it's a good space. I mean, it's a very good method of growing over the top and growing something underneath. Potatoes are fine to grow underneath like that. So because the wood had completely rotten down, yeah, it was really unsafe. You can see what the state that it's in. So it had to go. It's way past its best. It gave us a good few years for a bit of scrap wood. It gave us a good, it was free, absolutely free to make. It came from a neighbour's roof. And for a good few years we've had bottle gourds growing here, but no more. We're going to open this space up and grow something else. Just removing this has just given us so much more accessibility. It was a good method, but the problem was it was too low, because to harvest the potatoes you were on your hands and knees crawling about, and every time you stood up you banged your head. So it's time to get that gone. And like I mentioned, on this main walking space, this footpath, this is the place that I'm going to put a nice big arch here. So I'm going to have bottle gourds climbing over the top. I'm going to have a space for the beans, space to walk under. I bought these reclaimed fence posts off Facebook Marketplace, and I've just given them a paint with some really good quality. It's not bitumen paint, but it's really good quality, similar style, but it's the more water-based type. And hopefully that'll preserve it. So hopefully it'll give me a good few years. Let's get cracking and get these posts in and start building this little arch. So it's going to be a big old thing, I'll tell you that. You can see the sort of dimensions that it's taken. So I've used 3 posts on either side, and you can see I think I've been a little bit too ambitious getting these posts in the right place and measured up. It's kind of difficult to get it right because we're not on quite a bit of a slope here. So we're on quite a bit of a slope, it's like that. And to get, so it's going to be, that side is going to be quite a bit higher than that side because of the size of the posts. They're only 7-foot posts. If they were maybe 10-foot posts, I could have angled that higher up. So it would have been easier to get them all level at one level. It's going to look a pretty hefty old thing. We're going to be able to pass down underneath it without any trouble, and at the corner of each post we'll have a bottle gourd or some kind of climbing squash to go over the top. I think it'll look pretty good once it's done. And the other thing is, we could even have like little seating areas down here, so when the sun gets really hot, it's a little bit of a private area that you sat in the middle of all the garden, in the middle of all the wildlife, just somewhere to chill at the same time as having things growing over the top. So I think it looks pretty good. I can see it in my head. I can see the shape taking place in my head, and I can see what I want to happen. I think we'll be able to pull it off. We're going to get all this stuff painted. I've got the pieces that go across this way measured and ready, and then the next thing is going to be to make sure that I get all the pieces that go that way vertical, sort of level, and cut to size. I think it'll look pretty cool once it's done. This bottle gourd here, I'll pull the bucket over and have it climbing over the top this side, and I'll move this tyre into that corner and then have another bottle gourd climbing over that side. We'll plant one in the ground here. I mean, the soil here is really fertile now that we had wood chip here last year, and you can see the remnants of the wood chip potatoes here. And we'll have another one planted there. One of the things that you'll have noticed is I've always done the edges of my paths in logs and pieces of wood, and I want to show you what's happened to this. Come here. This was right there on the edge of that bed, and I've just moved it out of the way, but I'll show you what's happened to this. It's completely broken down. If you look inside the middle of that, it's so nice and crumbly. There's been loads of beetles in here, loads of wildlife in here. It's been a brilliant habitat. It's a great way of storing water. That's going to break down. It's going to further feed my garden. Once I've finished my bed, what I'll do is I'll put it back in that place and allow it to carry on breaking down. I don't know, I might put it back there. I might move it to the end of the bed and put it behind near the hedge. But it's been a great source of wildlife, and that's going to be lovely, lovely, rich organic material for the garden, and it's going to continue feeding on with the garden. All this wood chip that I put down, you can see it's already breaking down and turning into lush compost. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. That's what happens when you put down so much wood chip on the beds, and you get really lush potatoes, but as well as that you get lovely, lovely material breaking down and turning to soil and turning to compost and feeding your garden. The garden's coming to life. We even had a spot of rain in the middle of all of this, but yeah, it's not looking too bad. I think I'll get it finished tomorrow. So what I'll do is on my Patreon account is I'll put the rest of this arch going up, and you'll be able to see how I finish it off and how I complete it. But I'm going to leave it there for this one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.